Tell me why I ain't never wanna hear you say I want it that way.
Hey, Chris Lipe here with one of my favorite singers, Spencer Sotelo.
That way.
Nice, dude. Fuck yeah.
A while back, I was streaming the Periphery live in London and just getting mesmerized with, I think you said earlier in a conversation that you guys didn't even know you were being recorded.
No, yeah,
for that part.
That was a total surprise to us.
Yeah.
We got it handed to us mixed and ready to put out.
Yeah. So I love listening to live recordings of studio songs that I know really well.
Sure.
And it just struck me, your vocals sound fabulous on that. They sound like all live recordings. They sound different. I mean, you don't have 9 million tracks that you can layer things together and do things very strategically, but you brought a presence live that was just fantastic. And I didn't even see that live show, but everything fit together.
You can almost see it through the audio, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because of your engagement, live versus studio. We spend all this time listening to our heroes sing in the studio, and we hold ourselves to this standard of, it sounds, I want to sing like this. But we don't connect the fact that none of those singers sing like the studio live.
Yeah.
It can be really good live. And you've demonstrated that over and over again for over a decade in Periphery. Walk us through what that means, what that looks like for you. Because
Sure.
you're killer in the studio, you're killer live, but it's different. You've got a warm-up thing that you're giving away. What's it called?
Spencer's warm-ups for total destruction.
So if you want to warm up with him and see what he does before he hits the stage, before he gets in the studio, click that link below. Okay, so what is it?
So in the studio, I'm using a lot of this technique, a lot of this muscle memory that I've, built up over years and years of practice, but there's a lot of it that I'm letting fly out the window when certain lines, certain passages call for that immerse yourself in the emotion, wreck your voice, there are some lines that I've blown my voice out doing that have made it to final recordings, and it wouldn't have been that way had I been reserved and just using the pure technique. The studio to me is all about, okay, this performance is going to be immortalized. It's out there forever, so it should sound exactly the way that you want it to come across, how you want it to sound. And sometimes that may not be perfect technique. That's acting right there. That's throwing yourself into a recording and completely immersing yourself in that character.
Right.
And live, it's all about walking that fine line of doing that, getting the right emotion across, but bringing more of the technique into play and keeping that mindfulness of that, because when you're on the road for 30, 40 days at a time doing all these shows, you want to be able to have that longevity in your voice. You don't want to blow your voice out after 2 days of singing or even 1 day of singing, which I've done before.
Yeah.
It's finding that balance and using more of your body, moving around, using the physical aspect in faces and getting in the crowd's face, things like that to really keep the engagement going.
Right.
And that's where the emotion, it feels like it's coming from, is more of the physicality and less of just throwing your voice out.
Right. So you're probably more intense in the studio.
Yeah, 100%.
And way less intense, even though your body language suggests you're more intense. You're way less intense live.
Yeah, it's almost like an oxymoron. It looks completely opposite.
Right. And you're saving your voice intentionally. So what does that look like? I mean, do you hold notes out less? Probably sometimes. What I hear in almost every live singer is there's several passages, particularly during the singing, where you're less gritty. It's cleaner sounding.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
more reserved.
Pushing way less, really staying reserved, staying relaxed.
Yeah,
but making your body look like you're not staying relaxed, making your face look like you're not relaxed.
Clever deception.
Exactly.
Right. That's
acting.
Acting. Right. So there's an element of acting in both settings, right?
Absolutely, in different ways.
Right. In the studio, you're becoming those different characters. Mm-hmm. And in a live environment, you're acting like you're becoming those characters. But it really is more about paying attention to feel, paying attention to, even at the expense of the best sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take a line and give me an example of if you had no cares in the world and you were trying to get the perfect take in the studio versus how you would approach that line if you had another 3 hours. And
we'll use that line in Reptile.
Yeah.
So like if I was in the studio, it would sound something like, "Somebody needs a reaction to stay on the ground." And then live, it would sound a little bit more like, "Somebody needs a reaction to stay on the ground."
way less
Yeah.
energy going through your body.
It's
and
like
it sounds different.
"Oh!" as compared to "Oh! Oh!"
But there's a pacing that I see in your body language, and maybe this is something you can speak into also. It's not like you just automatically know where your limits are. No. You have to...
This is years and years of finding that, walking that line.
Yeah, you have to... Oh, I pushed a little too hard tonight. That means...
Which I've done countless times, dude.
How do you recover from that? If you're on the road and you're going longer and longer? And...
Lots of sleep and water. For me, that's been the only thing, like... Other people have their rituals and things that they do to get their voice back. For me, it's just sleep and water and
throat sprays
Nah, I don't do any of that shit. Maybe I'll do some like tea with honey every now and then, but just because I like it, not because I think it's gonna fix my voice.
Yeah,
sleep and water and not talking a shit ton during the day. That's the only thing that's really brought my voice back.
And so, well, what if you blew your voice out on Monday and you've got another show on Thursday? What is that?
I've had it to where I've blown my voice out one night and I have the show the next day. And it's just a lot of warming up softly when it's time to start warming up for the show. Not talking all day, getting as much sleep as I can, not doing sound check. But when it's time to start warming up for the show, warming up very softly, falsetto and easing in, and finding those breaking points, the right. And going back and forth and easing. It's almost like massaging your voice.
Which you can see those details in his warm-up routine. So make sure you download that. Key. You're using that on tour. That's
absolutely
amazing. So do you ever go into a live performance feeling like with this sense of fear? Like,
dude, more like almost every night. Like I go into tour feeling great, and then after a week goes by, nobody's voice is perfect after a week of touring, especially with screaming and playing for over an hour and 20 minutes every night.
Yeah.
I walk onto stage not being 100% after like a week of touring. Yeah. And there's that fear of, oh God, am I going to mess this note? Am I going to mess that up? And most of the time I don't, but that's always in the back of my head.
Yeah. So how does that affect your performance and your intensity or does it? Like,
it doesn't. Once I get on stage and I'm ripping, get through a song, the adrenaline's going.
You're acting at that point.
I'm acting at that point. All those fears, all those worries are out the window. It's like they didn't exist.
Because you're in the zone. So the anxiety comes beforehand, but the key is getting into character in both, right? In live and in the studio. Because you're just gonna you probably won't go into the studio with the same type of fear.
There's more anxiety for me going into the studio, especially if I'm working with another producer or something, which I haven't done in years, but the last time I did, it's nerve-wracking. You have those other people around and they're hearing you like it's the equivalent of looking at something under a magnifying glass. That's way more terrifying to me than going on stage and playing in front of 1,000 people and you're God at that point. You're coming out over this giant PA. You're on stage with your brothers. There's this energy. People are stage diving, fucking crowd surfing and screaming back at you. Like, that's fun to me. That's not a scary thing.
Yeah.
The fear that I go through before going on stage, that all exists in my head. It has nothing to do with the crowd or anything else going on. It's just for me. I don't want to mess up. But as soon as I'm out there and I'm killing it, all that goes away. It didn't exist.
Regarding specifically singing, screaming, there's this sense of abandon, right? Like on either side, even though there's this controlled, reserved approach that you've got live, when you're singing and okay, those high notes at the end of Reptile or whatever, I'm going to approach that differently, or do you try to sing the same notes?
I sing the same notes always. I try and recreate what's on record live, and I don't ever try and crutch anything. Like even if I'm sick and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit that F sharp.
Yeah.
I still go for it, and sometimes I biff it. Sometimes I biff it hard, but I go for it. And I'm always going to go for it. I will never change that.
And you're okay if you biff it live.
You have to be okay with it. And those people aren't there to see you and hear you crutch it. They want to see you fucking go for it. And if you fail, they don't care, dude. They're out there having fun,
Right.
and they see that you're a true artist up there doing exactly what you want to be doing, and
Right.
you're not there catering to anybody.
Yeah, that is so incredibly key. If you're afraid to fail, you won't even attempt it, and you'll completely
no
miss the
chance to
point.
succeed at that point.
You completely miss the
Yeah.
point. But if you go for it and you do fail, you've actually given the audience what they want. That's the thing that we need to pull
The
away.
human element of
right?
it.
That's what they want to see.
Yeah.
They can hear you sing it perfectly on the album, but the fact that you're okay with, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. And if I fail, that's the key. You're actually giving the audience what you want.
Sometimes
what they
I do
want.
fail, and I'll like double back and start laughing, and like the people in the front row, I'll
And they
connect
like
to them,
that
and they'll
even
see
more.
that I'm laughing, and it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter, man.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
So perfect. Grab Spencer's free warm-up routine.
Warm ups for total destruction.
Follow the link below. We'll see you for more.